Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the quarantine series. I'm your host, Kabir Segal. Great to be back. It's actually a special edition because not only am I in Atlanta, our guest is in Atlanta. I think this is probably the first time this happened in like over 130 episodes. So in honor of that, I have my Georgia shirt on. There you go. Peach State. And I'm broadcasting live from home. So Mom, please let me use the computer. I'll need the full Wi-Fi to make this happen. I'm gonna watch later. Look, so we started this broadcast to put the spotlight, as you know, back on the creators, the authors, the artists, the musicians. So many gigs and concerts have been canceled. Film festivals have been canceled. It's been tough out there for a lot of creative folks, and we think this is an important effort to put the people, as I said, back on the spotlight, but to share the stories that challenge, provoke, and entertain us throughout the year. And, art is really a gift. So if you enjoy what you see on the show, please subscribe to the artists, follow their work, become patrons, do what you can to be part of the artistic ecosystem. And we need each other. Artists need audiences and audiences need artists. So with that, you can obviously subscribe to all my social media to get notified on what we're doing when. I know some of the shows are a bit ad hoc and quick these days, but we'll try to settle into a regular schedule soon. And also let us know a couple of things. First, if you have any questions, drop it in the comments field and we'll ask the artist to opine. And then secondly, let us know where you're watching from. Cities, states, countries, counties, districts, wards, municipalities, zip codes, area codes. Let us know. We like to learn about the world, and this is a good way to do it, right? We have a big audience in Kuala Lumpur, so a shout out to the people in Malaysia who like to watch. Appreciate that. And even if you watch on the rebroadcast, not live, let us know. I'll go back and answer questions on the rebroadcast. All right. So with that, now the best part of the show, we get to meet the incredible artist, and this artist truly is incredible. She is an award-winning, critically acclaimed filmmaker, motivational speaker. That's what we need on a Saturday morning. We need some motivation. Maybe we should book it for Monday morning. Maybe we'll get it back for that. Advertising agency veteran. She was Variety magazine named her one of the top 10 documentary filmmakers to watch. She's spoken at a TEDx. She's been on. She's worked on just the highest level projects. Her last project, a 2019 short film, Illegal Rose, stars someone who tells a story of a disengaged nurse who accidentally kidnapped a 9-year-old ICE detention center runaway. So she's taking on very important issues. And she's working on some great new projects. I've actually seen one of her films, which we'll talk about. It's amazing. And so please welcome to the show the incredible hometown heroine from Atlanta, ATL, Deborah Riley Draper. Welcome to the show.
Perfect. Happy to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. Going great. Thanks for being here. I wanted to ask, of course, I always like to start by asking, how is the quarantine affecting you? What's going on? What did you have canceled or lined up? How's your life changed?
Oh, well, I had a book that was out, the Olympic Pride, American Prejudice, which was a Simon & Schuster book based on my film. So we were starting our book tour and then it canceled. So that was the very first thing that happened. We did a CBS This Morning special and we were headed out on the tour. That was March 9th. And then that was the last. I was in New York. I did 30 Rock as well. And that was the last part of the book tour. It ended right as it began. But I've been doing a lot of Zooms, and I think that was probably the biggest, most crushing thing because I was so excited about it. We had so many cities lined up. I wanted to meet all of the fans of the movie who now were fans of the book and autograph them and say hello and give everyone a hug. Now, no touching, no seeing, no book tour. And Illegal Rose, my short, was set to be in several film festivals, which didn't happen either. So that was kind of the state of the affairs. However, this Sunday, Illegal Rose is back in a virtual film festival at the Roxbury International Film Festival. So we're excited to see things come back. And one of the interesting things that we did this summer was we created a mini course at Morehouse College based on the book and the film of Olympic Pride, American Prejudice. So that really helped, put us back in a creative mode and keep the creative juices flowing. So that was exciting.
Let's talk about those creative juices. Do Do you drink juice in the morning? What is your typical day to day like? What's your routine like? How do you structure your time so you maintain or enhance creativity?
Well, I actually try to go for walks. I used to work out a lot, but I think I've gotten a little bit workout lazy during the quarantine. So it's more of a leisurely walk. Um, and I try to stay hydrated and drink a lot of water. I don't drink a ton of juices. I don't drink coffee either, but I do like green tea. But more of a leisurely walk, and then I'll do some Pilates moves or some yoga moves. And lately, I've been hopping on this very, very old vintage exercise bike that my aunt had that's like from the 70s. And I'll just pedal for like 10 minutes and then sit down.
Yeah, yeah, you're pre-Peloton, so maybe, which is probably a good thing. You're getting the nice vintage workout.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a vintage story, Versailles '73, American Runaway Revolution. It opened New York Fashion Week. That's pretty impressive, and Toronto Fashion Week in 2012.
Yeah.
So tell us why you wanted to take on this project. Why it was important for you to do this?
It's really a crazy story, honestly. I was in the car and I was driving and I was listening to NPR and I heard Barbara Summers say it was the most glorious event in all of fashion history. And it happened because of 12 Black women. I was like, wait, what? And then somehow I lost the station and I couldn't figure out what she was talking about. And when I got home, I did some research and I discovered November 28th, 1973 is really the birth of American runway fashion. So like pret-a-porter, ready to wear. That was the day it was born. And these Black women who weren't supposed to be in this fashion show ended up in this fashion show in Paris and literally changed the way runway presentations were made. And I said, someone should totally do a story about this. This would make a great documentary. Someone should do it. And then, as it turned out, that someone was actually me, and so that's how it happened. But it's this great story. You have 5 American designers, 5 French designers. It's a catwalk showdown of who would be the best in the world. And on that runway, on the American side, you had Halston, Oscar de la Renta, Anne Klein, Bill Blass, and a little-known African American designer named Stephen Burrows. And yes, and Stephen introduced the world to Beth Ann Hardison, who was on that runway in Paris, who is the mother of Kadeem Hardison, as a matter of fact, and Pat Cleveland, and all these. There's Beth Ann, these very, very, very famous models, and so that is kind of the beginning of what you will see in terms of diverse runway shows back in 1973.
How did you're making an art project about art, right? You're making a film about another type of art, fashion. So how did you think about honoring those traditions through the moving image? Talk about the aesthetic of it.
Well, one thing that was really amazing in making a film about fashion, which is truly a film about artists and creators and people who have a vision in their head and they're able to put it on paper. So being able to tap into the photography from Jean-Luc Hur, who's a French-based photographer, and Charles Tracy, who's a New York-based photographer from Brooklyn, I was able to use their work, for example, the photo you're looking at, which really captured what was happening backstage, on stage, and in the audience quite beautifully. So being able to use the actual footage, which was very limited from that show, and their photography allowed me to bring the audience into that moment in 1973, into the Palace of Versailles and into the lives of these models. So I was very grateful that they allowed me to use their actual prints in their photography for this show, and being able to talk to the models who were on the stage, who all very beautifully and very hilariously described what was going on. So it was this wonderful blend of their artistry just in their interviews, because they're all so amazingly dramatic and they're great showmen and great storytellers, and they effectively use their body even in a sitting interview. It's hysterical.
Yeah. It certainly seems like that. Thank you for making this film. I want to ask you also about the one I saw, and I'm very impressed with, Olympic Pride, your 2016 documentary, Olympic Pride, American Prejudice, which is such a sort of diamond in the rough story. I didn't know about all these incredible Olympians. We all know about, Jesse Owens, but tell us about how you even came across this story. Like, was it some kind of history project? How did you come across it?
Completely random. I'm actually researching Valeda Snow, who is a trumpet player in the 30s and the 20s and the 30s. She's from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and she was this Black woman who's a musician, singer, band leader, and she traveled Europe performing. And unfortunately, during the time she traveled, Hitler was rising to power, and jazz music was one of the things that was off the table for Adolf Hitler. So degenerate music, as he termed it, they swept all of these jazz clubs, and she was a part of one of the sweeps. So she was detained in a Nazi labor camp. And I did not know at that time that black women too had been captured and detained. So I was looking into her story, and she referenced these 18 African American athletes who defied Hitler. And I was like, what athletes? Who? I don't know this story. And once again, I was like, okay, hello, let me figure out what's going on. And I learned that Jesse Owens was not the only Black man at the 1936 Olympics. There were also two Black women, Louise Stokes and Tidie Pickett. And in fact, 18 African Americans challenged Jim Crow and Nazi supremacy and Adolf Hitler to be a part of this team and win medals and win hearts and really begin to open up international sports competition as superstars and as African American superstars. So it was an incredible story.
Was Jesse Owens' prominence and his success did that happen at the time, or is it looking back on history that he became sort of a spokesperson for that? I'm just wondering, were those stories known at the time?
Jesse's story was covered at the time because he had 4 medals, but the heroic status, probably came a little bit more after he passed away, and it certainly grew as people reflected post World War II, post Korean War, on what was actually happening in Germany and what these athletes did at the time. But when you look at the photos and the footage, you see all of them. But the story, the media, the dominant narrative really posted Hitler and Jesse Owens, so this Black man versus Hitler, to kind of deposition Hitler from a propaganda standpoint. So this amazing athlete that you're looking at right now, Archie Williams, who was at Berkeley, mechanical engineer, went on to become a Tuskegee Airman, went back to Germany to fight the war. So these stories were lost, as so many diverse stories are. So part of this was really looking at American history, world history, and ensuring that these 18 incredible heroes and patriots were properly placed in the context of history, in the context of pre-World War II history. So that's the story. And you had the first 2 Black women athletes in the 30s, like running internationally. And I thought that was important because the work that these athletes did made it possible for the athletes we know now, the athletes that certainly can compete in any country in the world, on any international stage in the world. But they blended in incredible elegance and sophistication, but they 100% represented themselves, their race, and their country. So this is very much rebellion and protest in sports by simply being on the medal stand and standing face to face with your head held high. That sent a message, and that sent an important message. And it's not so different from Colin Kaepernick and what you see the athletes doing right now. These guys did it in the 30s, and they did it under really extreme conditions.
Yeah, pioneers, trailblazers. With the 18 athletes, how did you choose which athlete rather, to give screen time to? There's a lot of people to explore. So how did you make those decisions of who to feature and what to tell about them?
Well, the first 2, of course, were the women. So
Yeah.
I opened with girl power because their stories were the most marginalized, the less known, and the most extraordinary, because this is before Title IX. This is before women were really competing. So the fact that they were able to even think about sports and pursue it and become elite athletes in the 30s was incredibly important to recognize and to highlight. I also chose Archie Williams because he's the Tuskegee Airman. He's this incredibly smart guy at Berkeley who can also fly planes, and he becomes the Tuskegee Airman, and he wins the 400-meter gold medal. So that was really interesting. I chose Ralph Metcalf, because after his Olympic career, which he was in the 32 and the 36, he becomes a U.S. congressman and one of the co-founders of the Congressional Black Caucus. So his ability to understand foreign policy, public policy, how to navigate the world as a Black man was really just incredible. And so I chose those three. I chose Dr. Jimmy Luval because he was a chemist, and Luval Commons at UCLA is named for this very incredibly smart and talented alum. And Mac Robinson because he's Jackie Robinson's older brother. And I didn't know Jackie Robinson had an older brother. And I certainly didn't know he won a silver medal at the 1936 Olympics. So I was like, Jackie Robinson's brother, Mac Robinson. Whoa, that's incredible. And they're Georgia. And because they're Georgia's own, I thought that was important as well.
It's amazing to see what the careers and where they ended up, because Olympians are very driven, and even in their post-Olympic careers, they tend to go on to do big and great things, just like you. So I wanted to ask also, what was the response among the athletic community? I'm sure you've shown this around. Are they surprised, discovered? What's the
When we showed this film for the first time in Washington, D.C., we actually were able to bring the families of many of these 18 African-American athletes to Washington, D.C. to meet President Obama and to be recognized for the very first time in 80 years for not only their work as athletes, but their work as, global citizens. So that was just a moment of tears and everything. But the 2016 Olympic team was at the White House the same day, Team USA. And I remember Allison Felix just being astonished to see and learn about two Black female athletes that ran track 80 years before she ever, won an Olympic medal. So they were all surprised. They were also, in some ways, disappointed that they didn't know this story, that this story did not have the prominence that it should, as they were learning about their sport and learning about history and learning about World War II and learning about the 1936 Olympics. So everyone, oh my gosh, the story was so embraced by athletes, fans of sport, fans of history, fans of the pre-World War II history, and people who really want to understand the diverse history of the United States of America and see examples of achievement and accomplishment and contributions from everyone who may be outside of the dominant narrative or who may have been left outside of the dominant narrative.
Well, speaking about folks who are outside the dominant narrative, immigrants, people who've come here from other places. I want to ask you about your 2019 short film, Illegal Rose. Talk to us about why you wanted to do this project and the topical nature of this project you took on.
Well, one of the reasons when people think of immigration, they have all of these incredibly negative images that are perpetuated in the media, and they don't always get full, complete stories of the people. People are not personalized, they're lumped into this category. And there's so many amazing personal stories that are a part of this categorization. But I was watching the news, and in San Antonio, I saw all of these little kids in this kind of makeshift jail underneath interstate, and I was just completely appalled by it. And so I wanted to speak to immigration, but I also wanted to speak to the fact that they're brown and Black immigrants, and that story often is really distorted and not told in a way that people understand how people come to this country and why and what are some of the legal entanglements people get in because of this incredibly complicated policy that our country employs when it comes to immigration. So the story stars Jasmine Guy, who's one of my favorite actresses. She lives in Atlanta. I've been a fan of hers since A Different World. And it's looking at how and why little kids who are subjugated to such tough, harsh, not only legislation and laws, but treatment. And that's what I wanted to tap into. What happens when someone decides that they're going to get outside of their normal everyday routine and they accidentally kidnap a little girl, and what choices are you going to make what are you going to do? Because no human is illegal. And how do you humanize that story? And how do you personalize that story? And how do you show two unlikely people who can become friends, a nurse and a runaway?
Totally. Where did you film this? What kind of cameras did you shoot on? Some craft questions for you.
Two Ari Alexas we shot in East Point, Georgia, as a matter of fact. And we used 3 locations. We used the kind of, for our protest scene, we actually used a parking lot of a brand company located in East Point right there. That's actually the corporate office of Arden's Garden. They were so kind to allow us to use that space. We used a home in East Point. We used a kind of a bodega convenience store in East Point, and we used the area behind it. So it was really exciting to work with the owners of those locations and get our permits and really shoot something about brown and black people together, because I also thought that was important too, because oftentimes in the media and in politics, brown and black people are pitted against each other and immigrants are pitted against each other. And I wanted to show unity. Our crew and our cast represented over 10 different countries that people were from. And so it's a very unifying and diverse and inclusive set and story.
I like that. It's also reflecting the diversity of Atlanta, and it's so great that
Absolutely.
it's so great that you're doing things here, and you run Coffee Bluff Pictures. Tell us about the production company and anything else you want to share about future projects.
Absolutely. Coffee Bluff Pictures was named for an area in Savannah, Georgia, actually, where freed slaves settled. So that's where my family actually settled during Reconstruction. So that's very special to me and very important. So Coffee Bluff Pictures is the name of the company. We specialize in film and television productions. We have a new film. We have 2 docs coming out that'll come out in the spring of 2021. And then we'll start working on the feature film Coffee Will Make You Black, which stars Gabrielle Union, produced by Tate Taylor and Octavia Spencer. And that's based on the book written by the incredible April Sinclair. The screenplay was adapted by yours truly. So that's fun, and I'll be directing.
Awesome. Well, let's get her social media up on the screen one more time. If you guys if everyone wants to join and subscribe, I highly encourage you going to her website or on Instagram for size 73. There it is. You can also go to her website, DeborahRileyDraper.com, Coffee Bluff Pictures, and you'll see her portfolio of projects up on the website, so you can be the first to know.
Yeah. And watch the films.
Please, of course. Where can people watch your films? I mean, the ones we talked about. Tell us where we can watch all 3 of them.
Absolutely. So you can, if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it. If you're, depending on where you are in this world, if you go to coffeebluffpictures.com, you can find links to where it's streaming around the world. Olympic Pride can be found in 10 or 11 different countries on various streaming platforms from Amazon. All of them are available on Vimeo. A Legal Rose is available on Flixa TV, which is a brand new streaming platform geared to content directed by women or starring strong female leads. It's an Australian-based streaming company focused on female filmmakers from around the world. So that's Flixa TV. But please go to Coffee Bluff Pictures and find your country, find your link, watch a film. If you're interested in social justice and you're interested in learning about different people and different cultures, that's kind of where the space I like to play in. So join us at coffeebluffpictures.com, find out about what we'll be doing next. And we love audiences. We love to meet new audiences. So I'm really grateful to be on the show and be exposed to your audience and have your audience be exposed to me, because that's what creativity is all about. It's about sharing. It's certainly not about keeping it for yourself. It's about finding great stories you want to tell and telling it for people to enjoy and have a conversation about and talk about and be inspired.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. Maybe when the world reopens, we can go to the OK Cafe together.
Yes.
And catch up. Yeah. And for everyone watching at home, I want to say thanks to Shane for producing the show. He's a very good chef. Try his Spanish tortilla if you're in his neck of the woods, or green curry. There you go.
I need by FedEx.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the show, everyone. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to get notified on what the next episodes are, and take care of the art, because the art will take care of you. Have a great day. Stay safe, everyone.